Check. Let's get it. You are now tuned into Morning MMA with Miller DC, the #1 commentary channel on YouTube. We are finally live again. Episode number 10. This is our 10th episode of Morning MMA. So it has been a journey. It has been fun. A lot of fights, a lot of news on the menu. It's fight week. We have UFC 291 this weekend. Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje being the headliner, Jan Blachowicz fighting Pereira. So that fight has a lot of implications, that being, you know, the winner probably gets a title shot. Ferguson, this might be the last time we see him in the octagon. Stephen Thompson, Michel Pereira. And then we also have the main event in boxing, Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. We have Fulton versus Inoue tomorrow, but then we have Crawford versus Spence this Saturday. And that stream will be sponsored by MyBookie. So I'm excited about that. Finally got a sponsorship again. Feels great to, you know, be growing the stream. And let's talk some fighting. Let's give some predictions. Our last UFC pay-per-view fight, we went 10-3, 10 right fights, only 3 wrong ones. So that's a great percentage for your boy. And let's see if we could keep the streak going, because it has been, what, 2 pay-per-views in a row that we've just been killing the card, that we've been doing great in. So that feels good. Let's see how we do today. We're going to go right through the card, and then I'll give you guys my picks. I'll put the fights on the screen, and we'll get right to it. But firstly, the first man in the stream today is Jesus M. What's up, my guy? Jesus, welcome to the stream. Says Tabora was disappointing performance. And we could also talk about last weekend before we head over to UFC 291 and give our predictions. I'll make sure I put the timestamps. If you're watching this back, I'll make sure I do that so you guys can know where I talk about maybe a fight that you're interested in, and you can skip over to that. Tom versus Volk versus Ty winner, says Jesus. Crawford split decision. Listen, after what happened with Kambosos and Hughes, does it even, I don't mean to sound too pessimistic in the beginning of the stream before we head into our predictions, but does it matter who we believe won come Saturday? And I'm going to try to start early, but let's say in the chat it's a unanimous, oh, it was 7 rounds to 5, 8 rounds to 4 for Crawford, hypothetically, right? Let's just say it's something like that. Would we be surprised if the judges, if we see it 117, 111 for one fighter, and the judges give it to the opposite person? Because that's what's been happening in boxing. And again, don't mean to get too pessimistic, but look what happened with Haney and Lomachenko. The majority felt Lomachenko won. Now, I know that's in the past, but even more recently, Kambosos and Hughes, they fought this past weekend. The unofficial scorecards, Mark Kriegel had it 117, 111 for Hughes. One judge gave it 117, 111 for Kambosos. How that makes sense, I don't know. Tim Bradley and everyone else in company thought that Hughes won the fight, but Kambosos is the bigger name. It's sad to see what happens in boxing. So all that to say, Crawford and Spence, even if we feel that one fighter is was well ahead and won the fight hypothetically, until we see the judges' scorecards, and if Spence doesn't finish Crawford or Crawford doesn't finish Spence, we might get a bad decision, to say the least, right? So we'll see what happens. Tom has tests to pass before top 5, says Jesus. I mean, I thought one of the tests was going to be Curtis Blaydes, and you saw the injury that he had. He wasn't able to finish the fight. But what he did to Tybura was a little bit impressive. It happened in 73 seconds. So now for him to call out John Jones and, fast track to the title, we'll see what happens with Aspinall. I always thought it was going to be him, speaking of Aspinall, and Pavlovich as the true dark horses or the biggest threats in the UFC heavyweight division, was my opinion. And maybe I'm proven to be true shortly. Derek Lewis also fights this weekend too, and you know how guys feel about Derek Lewis, but that's also this weekend as well. So we'll see what they do with Tom Aspinall. They have him currently ranked at number 5. Now, what they do with him after this weekend, they take about 2 to 3 days to update it. That's usually the case. So we'll see what happens. But I think the skill set, the speed, the youthfulness of Tom Aspinall is one of those things that we have to take into consideration, because John Jones, I know people feel that he's the GOAT, and rightfully so, but at the same time, he's getting up there in age. And Father Time is undefeated. So if he stays in the game long enough, I could see him losing, right? The problem is, I wouldn't be surprised. I would almost predict that if he beats Stipe Miocic this year, I think he might retire on top. Nothing else left to prove. Why keep fighting? The young guns in Aspinall and Pavlovich are right around the corner. Maybe he doesn't want to deal with that. Maybe he does still have that competitive spirit, but he's been fighting title fights. What is this, like his 15th title fight in a row or something like that? So he's a respected veteran at the end of the day. Full split decision, Jesus. I think he's like a +2 something, almost 300 underdog. Inoue is going up one weight division, Jesus. We'll see them fighting at 122. I wish I could watch it and cover it live, man. But that fight happens to be on Tuesday. So tomorrow while I'm at work, which sucks. Spence on Showtime, and Showtime wants Spence to win. That's a good point as well, too. And Spence sells more tickets. He's the bigger draw. So if it is close, maybe they go Spence, right, Jesus? It's tough to say. Kambosos lost clearly, says Curtis Williams. Devin won fair and square. With Devin, I'm okay with saying it was a very close fight. At best, maybe you could give it a draw or a 7-5 for Devin Haney. But that Kambosos loss was pretty damn clear, Curtis. I agree with you there. So it's tough to say. I'm not that upset with the Lomachenko fight anymore. Great work to the body from Haney. I still think Lomachenko should have edged that fight. But the Kambosos Hughes fight this past weekend was absolutely insane. Shall we go right into, guys? Shall we go right into? Let's go. UFC 291. We'll be covering this fight, right? Let me maybe move myself from the left side where I'm right in the middle of the fights, and then move myself to the right. Shall we give some predictions for UFC 291? Again, I was 10-3 on the last pay-per-view card. I do want to do the preliminary fights. I do want to talk about Derek Lewis, but maybe we'll go up and down the preliminary and main card. But let's quickly, Trevin Giles is fighting as well too. I think that starts 8 p.m. So maybe we could get on early and cover some undercard fights before the main event in Spence versus Crawford. But let's go right through one by one the main card, starting at the bottom with Chiesa and Holland and working our way all the way up. In the meantime, you guys can call in 267-545-8096. Let's put this maybe here. Maybe that looks better there. You can call in at 267-545-8096 and share your predictions on this fight week, which should be interesting, right? Maybe I can make it like smaller. I don't know what looks good. Maybe that looks a little weird. Maybe if I do one, oh, I did not mean to do that. Give me 1 second. Figuring things out on the fly. I'm just trying to make it where it looks somewhat professional. Maybe that looks a little better. Let me know if that looks okay. But nonetheless, 267-545-8096. Let's quickly go through the main card starting at the bottom. We'd love to hear some predictions of that you guys may have. And in the meantime, I'll start a poll and leave, which is almost a 50-50 fight despite them fighting before and being somewhat well known of each other. Although both fighters, more specifically Justin Gaethje, was a different fighter at the time that they fought. So we'll talk about that fight as well too. I feel like I jump back and forth with that one because it really could go either way. Nonetheless, let's start at the bottom and work our way up. We're going to cover UFC 291, give our predictions and picks for UFC 291, and then we'll head over and talk some Spence versus Crawford and get right to it. Jones beats Tom stand-up and For Sure Wrestling. Maybe For Sure Wrestling stand-up, he might pick him apart with the leg kicks, but we'll talk about that. Jones is up in age, but hasn't shown it in the cage. I thought he looked a little slower against Cyril Gane. I know it was a quick finish, but as far as the striking, not that much was shown, but I do think he is going to start to age quite soon. My prediction, Jesus. We'll talk about it. We'd love to hear some thoughts on UFC 291 as well too. Let me know who you think is going to have the best performance of the night. Let's get right to it. UFC 291, 267-545-8096. If you do want to call in and share your predictions, but let's get right to the card. Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland this weekend. Now, if we go to the UFC 291 and we look at their previous fights, speaking of Kevin Holland and Michael Chiesa, Kevin Holland is a sort of a wild card, in my opinion. He's 24-9. The last time we saw him in the octagon, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Holland, what sometimes people forget is how big he is for the division. Not necessarily muscular-wise or the most powerful, but I do think his striking is somewhat underappreciated and underrated. He'll be fighting Michael Chiesa, who isn't the best striker. You've seen him take a couple losses as a recent. I remember Vicente Luque was able to Darce choke him. We covered that fight live, and then he lost to a wrestler in Sean Brady. Sean Brady being, sort of elite wrestler in the octagon. You saw him not having his best performance against Bilal Muhammad. But now, after 2-loss streak, Michael Chiesa being a commentator for the UFC, very well experienced. I do believe, in my opinion, Kevin Holland is a tough matchup for him. I think the length, the reach, not that Kevin Holland is the best wrestler. You saw him have a little bit of trouble against Khamzat Chimaev. Against Stephen Thompson, he did lose as well too, but he could have used more wrestling, but he chose to make it just a striking match. And I think that was more to please the fans. But if he wanted to implement a little more wrestling, I thought he would have had more success. Nonetheless, he loses to Chimaev. He loses to Thompson. He was on a 2-fight losing streak before beating Ponzinibbio. He's going to be fighting Michael Chiesa this weekend. I'm going to have to go with, right now, although Kevin Holland has more fights than Chiesa in the UFC or total professional fights, I do think the length, the leg kicks, the strong jab, the unorthodox style. I believe maybe his wrestling wasn't good enough to keep Khamzat away for a full 3 rounds. But I think he'll be able to do that against Chiesa, while also he doesn't have to worry about the threat as far as Chiesa being as strong, powerful in the striking department compared to a Khamzat. I don't think he's that threatening, right? With all that being said, I'm going to go Kevin Holland by... I almost want to go knockout, but I'm going to go, I think it'll go the full 3 rounds. Kevin Holland will kind of punish Michael Chiesa round after round. It's only going to be a 3-round fight. Chiesa is not really going to be able to get his offense going. We'll see him shoot for takedowns, maybe not necessarily get it, but I think he's going to struggle. I think that length and that reach of Kevin Holland is really going to create some problems. And with all that being said, I'm going to go a decision after 3 rounds. I could potentially see a knockout for Holland, but I'm going to play it safe. And if you look at the losses of Chiesa, surprisingly, have been a lot of submissions. He only has 1 KO loss. If you look on Tapology, a lot of them are by 4 losses are by submission. 1 is by KO, and 1 loss by decision. But I think Kevin Holland is going to be able to stay at range, stay on the outside, give Chiesa some trouble. Chiesa is not really going to get his offense going. I got a decision for Kevin Holland. Let's catch up with chat real quickly before we go into the next fight in Bobby Green and Tony Ferguson. And that fight hurts me a little bit to talk about because Ferguson is an easy person to root for, but he's at the tail end of his career. But let's quickly catch up with chat. Spence on Showtime. Yep, I read that as well. What you mean a little bit of trouble against Hamza? He was ragdolled. I wouldn't say he was ragdolled. He was taken down and he Granby rolled almost 3 times, or I think 2 to 3 times. Granby rolled out of a takedown. The problem was he got caught with a Darce choke, couldn't fight the hands. I would argue, I know this is a big what if he was able to fight the hands and maybe get out of that submission attempt, it would have got interesting because Hamza expended a lot of energy until that point. With all that being said, he got Darce choked. Hamza is different than Chiesa as far as the pace that both of them are able to set. I don't think Chiesa has that kind of pace or threat in the submission or in the submission bag of tricks where he's going to be able to threaten Holland much. I have Holland by unanimous decision. Potentially a knockout. I'm going to go with unanimous decision. What do you mean a little bit of trouble against Hamza, says Hito. Merchant in the building. Good evening. Guys, hit the thumbs up as well. It gets more people in the chat. I always forget to mention that. Hit the thumbs up. Costs you nothing, but helps your boy out a ton. 267-545-8096. You can call in and share your predictions. The next fight, guys. Ferguson and Bobby Green. Bobby Green has had a lot of fights in the UFC as well. Bobby Green, as far as a recent, has not had the most impressive performances, especially against Drew Dober. We covered both live, right? The Makhachev and the Dober fight. Even the Nasrat fight as well, too. Against Islam, ground and pound, you know, that's Islam Makhachev. It's almost unfair to compare Makhachev and Bobby Green's performance against Makhachev and then talk about Ferguson as if they're somewhat similar. At this point in both of their careers, Islam, Ferguson, they're not. Now, against Drew Dober, what concerned me a little bit is Bobby Green, you can tell he was the more craftier, witty boxer as far as striking. He was quicker to the punch against Dober, but Dober kept coming forward. Dober kept trying to close the distance until he was able to do so. And when he did finally find the chin of Bobby Green, he made him pay. And he won by knockout. You saw Bobby Green somewhat disputing it a bit in that fight, but nonetheless, Dober got the job done. Like you ever feel like you have to sneeze and then it doesn't happen? All right, that time I didn't get played, but he loses by knockout in round number 2 to Dober. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Now he fights Tony Ferguson. Man, what a fall from. It's sad because there's no other way to say this. What a fall from grace. I know you guys have heard of this comparison before, but it's just true and it's depressing at the same time. 267-545-8096. We'll love to hear some predictions on Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje or Crawford versus Spence. I'll make sure I play them live on stream. Ferguson at one point, oh my God, and it's almost depressing to look at all the red. To look at all the red in the column of fights for Ferguson. There was at one point, and look at the name Khabib Nurmagomedov right here. How many times was this fight canceled? It's a travesty. Canceled bout in 2015, canceled bout 2016, 2017, 2018, 4 years consecutive, and then 2020. Canceled. And in between all those fights, he was on a tear. Ferguson was the epitome of that fighter that it doesn't matter how good you were, he was going to keep coming forward. He was going to take 2 to land 1. and he was gonna eventually outcondition you. He would have the stamina where if you showed any signs of fatigue, his meter of stamina never waned. You never even seen a blemish in it, and he was just on a tear. RDA, Kevin Lee, Anthony Pettis. Remember that performance against Anthony Pettis where he just kept pressing forward and kept hurting him after a while, even though Pettis started off strong. And then a win against Donald Cerrone. And then it was that infamous fight, the Justin Gaethje fight. That fight single-handedly, without question, changed Ferguson and what we believed and knew that he was before that fight. Before May 9th, 2020, Ferguson was a specimen that he was almost unbeatable because you would hit him with bombs, hit him with shots. He never showed that he was hurt, and he would kept pressing forward. Against Gaethje, he took strike after strike, kick after kick for a total of 5 rounds. It was a main event, I believe, at the Apex, if I'm not mistaken. I believe there wasn't a crowd. It doesn't say here, but I'm pretty sure it was at the Apex. And you could hear the thudding shots landed by Gaethje. It was tough to watch. Gaethje wins in round number 5 by, I believe, a stoppage because the referee got in the way, or did it? Yeah, round number 5. It was by TKO. It wasn't as if Ferguson got put out. Ever since that fight, and it almost feels like yesterday, but that was back in 2020. He loses to Oliveira, unanimous. Loses to Dariush, unanimous decision. Then the chant. I almost feel like I'm telling one of the most depressing stories, because then we go to Chandler, and it was that front kick that finally melted Ferguson. We never seen him out cold until that fight. And then against Nate Diaz, Ferguson looked like he was 43 years old. It was tough to watch. He looked slow. He was turning his back towards Diaz. He looked kind of fat, out of shape. And now he's going to be fighting Bobby Green. If he loses to Bobby Green, we'd love to hear some thoughts, but in my opinion, if he loses to Bobby Green, it's time to hang it up. Enough's enough. Sometimes you're tough for your own good. I don't think he needs the money. He should be somewhat well off. He's on a 3, 4, 5 fight losing streak. Bobby Green will be number 6. I think it's time, and it's tough to say, but after this fight against Bobby Green, even if he wins, I would even argue, even if he wins and finds a way to pull it off, guys, hit the thumbs up, helps the channel out immensely. Even if he wins, retire on a win. I know you were that guy that most people thought would be the toughest fight for Khabib, and stylistically at that time, that is probably true. But at this point in your career, all the punishment you took, win or lose, I hope he hangs it up. And I don't think Ferguson is going to really go for takedowns or be successful. Bobby Green, I feel like people don't know this about him. He doesn't have the worst takedown defense. Islam is a whole different animal, but Bobby Green has pretty good takedown defense and some good striking. He keeps his hands low. He leaves himself open to get hit, I will admit. He does leave himself open to get hit. But I just think Green is going to be able to keep it standing and is going to be able to find the chin of Ferguson round after round. But I could see it going a full 3 just because of Ferguson's durability. I'm going to go with Bobby Green. So I have Holland in the main event and Bobby Green. We'll see how that goes, right, on the main event. Hopefully we can cover that live before jumping over to boxing. But I have Bobby Green and I have Kevin Holland in the first 2 fights of the main event. I think they're both going to be able to win by decision. I think Ferguson is going to be durable enough to last 3 rounds. Chiesa, Holland might get the knockout. Let's catch it with chat. Tony is washed up, says Merchant. Granite chin turned into marshmallow. Very well said. And I lost every bit of respect to Green after being delusional on why he lost to Makhachev. The whole steroid accusations, and it was a little weird, right, Merchant? With no proof or evidence behind it. It was a little strange, I will admit, Merchant. He is, and we can almost put him in a category of elite striker. When it comes to just striking, if it's a boxing match, he'll do well. I would be intrigued to see him do something like bare knuckle fighting. I think Bobby Green will be perfect, his style for those type of fights. Has been hurt before though, so there's that question mark. But Ferguson at this point in his career, his age, 6-fight losing streak, I believe, or five, 5-fight losing streak. I think it's time to hang it up, win or lose. You've done enough in your career, over 30 plus fights. You've slowed down in the octagon, and I think that's pretty objectively clear. Plug says Tony by sub. You think he's gonna go for like what, a flying triangle, standing up, collar tie from the clinch, and he gets maybe some kind of Darce choke and sprawls on the head of Bobby Green? I don't know how you see it playing out, but I just don't see it. And interesting with the poll, I see Gaethje 60% to Poirier 40%. That's an interesting take. I still, and we'll get to that. I have Bobby Green defeating Tony Ferguson. Now, Stephen Thompson versus Michel Pereira. Now, this is another interesting fight as well, too. For the simple fact that Stephen Thompson, ironically enough, if it's just a striking match, it's not that he's unbeatable, but he's pretty damn dangerous. He's one of those fighters that, remember, he beat Masvidal way back by unanimous decision. Then he was on a 2-fight losing streak. He beat Luque. He beat Jeff Neal. He has some big names on his resume. Speaking of Stephen Thompson, the problem is he always struggled in the wrestling aspect of fighting, and whenever he would face a wrestler or someone that could take him to the ground, it became a little tough for him, Stephen Thompson wise, because he wasn't able to necessarily be competitive in that aspect. But he's fighting Michel Pereira, where ironically enough, him as well too, he's been on somewhat of a tear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight winning streak, and he beat Ponzinibbio by split decision. Equal prices are done. I hate to say it outright in that way, but he just had nothing to offer against Robbie Lawler. He stayed in the clinch, and he just allowed Robbie Lawler to land some elbows and some hooks out of the, so maybe that win didn't age the best. But all that to say, what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to the resume of both fighters, Stephen Thompson has the better names. Look at the names on his resume. Kevin Holland, which was essentially just a striking match. And Stephen Thompson is up there in age. Bilal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns, Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, big names. Tyron Woodley, Jorge Masvidal, Rory McDonald. That's a great win as well too. He's been around for quite some time. Stephen Thompson, him being 17-6, Michel Pereira being 28-11. I think this fight is going to be able and is going to stay striking. And with the kicks of Stephen Thompson, his somewhat Taekwondo style, the wide stance, hopping in and out of range, landing some jabs, some head kicks, some kicks to the body. Pereira is very athletic, even for his age. How old is he again? Because I believe he's up there, but he's the one that will front flip right into you. He's 29 years old. He looks like he's 38. But he's very athletic, very unorthodox in the way he approaches fighting. But I do think, as far as fundamentals, striking wise, if it stays in that fashion, I just think Stephen Thompson is going to be a little too much, a little bit too experienced for someone like Pereira. I think Stephen Thompson is going to be able to get it done. And I'm excited to talk about Blachowicz and Pereira next. But so those are my picks for the first three. I got Kevin Holland, Bobby Green, and Stephen Thompson. Out of those three right now, guys, how do you guys feel about it? How do you guys feel about those three picks? Which one am I wrong about? Or do you guys agree with those three? Or do you guys might have Pereira, Ferguson, and Chiesa? We'd love to hear some thoughts. Voicemail sent on Justin and Dustin. Good, because I'm going to talk about Blachowicz and Pereira, and then I will get right to that. So thank you for the voicemail. If you guys want to call in, 267-545-8096. I appreciate the call-ins. It makes for a fun show. We've been getting some great calls. Credit to Hito. He's been having some good ones. And maybe he's been learning a little fighting. I don't know who's giving him his takes, but lately he's been a little bit on. Merchant says, yeah, this should be Tony's retirement fight. Khabib versus Tony, still the biggest what if. That should be a what if. That should be a what if Wednesday video that I haven't done in a minute too. That should be a big one. Voicemail sent. Jan by takedown, ground and pound. Jesus, I'm glad you said that. Jesus gets you were the subject of my video with was it the Duplessis fight? I believe it was that. But let's get speaking of Jan Blachowicz, let's talk about the co-main and we'll talk about the main event. We'll play some voicemails. If you guys want to call in 267-545-8096, let me know your prediction for Poirier versus Gaethje or Blachowicz and Pereira or Spence versus Crawford. I'll play that live on stream. I'm going to do that right after this, but Blachowicz and Pereira. Would love to play this. Let me see. Give me 1 second.
This feeling.
Okay, perfect. We're going to be able to play live. And thank you for the $20. My man Hito in the building. Thank you so much to tap the heart. Yep. And no message on it. Just a thugged out $20 to donate on the stream.
I didn't know that.
Thank you, sir.
Just payday.
Sends a $20. Sends a voicemail. Thank you for your ongoing support. My guy Hito, let's go. Starting off the morning right. Don't let me touch some money. Let's get it. Jan by takedown, ground and pound. Let's play it. What Jan had to say in the UFC 291 countdown episode, which was released yesterday.
When you are the champion.
Let's rewind a little bit.
On July 29th, we'll see former light heavyweight champion Jan Blachowicz.
And if you guys remember, he was the champion. Remember, he beat Adesanya by ground and pound. Jesus says he's going to win by ground and pound against Pereira. Pereira maybe doesn't have the best wrestling, which makes it somewhat interesting. Let's see what he had to say.
I know this feeling when you are the champion. And now I lose the bet and I want to get it back because...
And I've said this before about Jan Blachowicz. I've said this before. I don't know why this is not working. I think there's those type of fighters, one or two. There's those fighters that this will not come up on my, there we go. That get a taste of the belt and they're never the same. They almost look like they lose the motivation. They're focused. They never touch the belt again. Or there are those that are desperate to get their title back. It appears that Jan Blachowicz, at least from what he's saying, that he wants the title back.
I know this feeling when you are the champion.
Remember, he was Poland's first UFC champion, if I'm not mistaken.
And now I lose the bet.
And he brought the belt back to his country.
And I want to get it back because I know how it feels. Double motivation I have inside me.
Many people make bold claims and statements, but rarely do they follow through with action to back it.
Big left from Jan Blachowicz. He's hurt.
That performance against Dominic Reyes, when people thought that Dominic Reyes beat John Jones, Jan Blachowicz then fights him and demolishes Dominic Reyes.
Jan Blachowicz has done it.
And I feel like Jan Blachowicz is one of those fighters that people just simply, for some reason, don't talk about enough. Maybe it's because that Magomed Ankalaev fight was somewhat close and it ended with him being on the bottom and it being a 10-8 round. But let's quickly look over the resume of Jan Blachowicz, the former light heavyweight champion. He beat Dominic Reyes, Corey Anderson. He was on somewhat of a tear, right? He beats Adesanya, and that was a title fight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, for the UFC light heavyweight championship. I think it was a vacant title at the time, right? If I'm not mistaken, you guys let me know. But Blachowicz beats Adesanya, loses to Teixeira by rear naked choke. He beats Rakic. Now, that Ankalaev fight, he was seconds away, in my opinion, from winning that fight if he just pressed on the gas a little more while simultaneously not allowing Magomed Ankalaev to get a takedown. He was chewing Ankalaev's leg apart with the leg kicks. Ankalaev was starting to lose mobility, and then he started to spam takedowns, and he got him. And if Blachowicz was just able to stay away and sprawl, I thought he could have won that fight. And Ankalaev was one of the most dangerous fighters in that division, in the light heavyweight division. One of the most maybe ducked as well, too. He's number 2 in the rankings, and they fought to a draw. Now, you go over to you go over to Gaethje. I'm sorry, you go over to Blachowicz and Alex Pereira. What have his recent performances looked like?
That's what I'm talking about.
Hold me these levers to it. I'm playing chess.
One of the most heavy-fisted fighters in the UFC, but there's a couple of things of why I arrived to my conclusion, and I'll talk about that in a little bit.
He's absolutely one of the most devastating and destructive strikers that's ever fought in mixed martial arts.
And you hear what Joe Rogan had to say, right? One of the most devastating strikers in mixed martial arts. You saw what he did to Adesanya in their first MMA fight in the UFC. But then, and I believe it plays soon, but then he suffers a tough loss, and they get to it in a little bit, but let's talk about this for a second. Alex Pereira arrived on the scene. He chased Adesanya all the way from China to the USA, right? Pereira, I believe he was 5-0, 6-0 before fighting. Yeah, 6-0 before fighting Adesanya a second time. But he gets a couple wins. He knocks out Sean Strickland with that infamous left hook, and then he followed up with a right straight while Strickland was going down. Beats Adesanya, but then he simply leaves himself a little bit too exposed. Once again, thank you for the $20. He leaves himself a little bit exposed. Got a little bit too confident. If he would have just, because it seemed like to me against Adesanya in the second fight, it seemed like he was starting to pick up the pace. He started to walk forward and close the distance. And credit to Adesanya. Adesanya was somewhat playing possum. And then he unloads with a big straight right hand. Hurt Pereira and then knocks him out cold. There's a couple of factors of why I feel that this fight might not necessarily go Pereira's way. And that leads to my, ultimately to my final prediction. It's somewhat of a quick comeback, number one. His last loss was in April, right? So we're only in July, and he's fighting again. So he lost by knockout, knocked out cold. He's going up in weight, fighting for the first time at 205, and he might naturally, he forgot to defend, says Merchant. Yeah, almost simply put. He's going up in weight, a quick return, and he just lost by knockout. And he's fighting Jan Blachowicz, who I feel doesn't necessarily get the respect that he deserves. That's simply put. For those reasons, I wonder if anybody has a problem with playing my stream, but I'm seeing right here, and I got a message from it. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Okay. With all that being said, and you add on to that Blachowicz has had the title before, I think this is a very tough, maybe even not the most wise first fight back after coming off a loss for Alex Pereira is my biggest claim and biggest point. And for that reason, I almost want to go knockout for Blachowicz. It's going to be tough. Blachowicz is not the heaviest puncher, but he is a pretty heavy-handed striker. I just think it's too soon. There's too many negatives in the picture. Blachowicz was in his last fight in a war as well, too, against Makhachev, right? But that was back almost 7 months ago. A little over 7 months ago against Ankalaev. And Magomed Ankalaev has that wrestling factor that Pereira simply doesn't. Jan Blachowicz gets touched, he gets hit. Pereira has that infamous left hook. Is that power going to translate up to 205? I would assume yes. It's just a little bit too soon. Props to him for accepting the fight, Merchant. I agree with you. Is it early for Alex to return when he just got KO'd like 3 months ago? Exactly my point. Maybe not cutting another 20 pounds will help Alex chin. That's another thing. When you cut weight that drastically, and then you also get touched to the chin, it's a little bit dangerous. maybe going up in weight does help him, but his first fight back against Jan Blachowicz, arguably the most dangerous maybe fighter in the light heavyweight division, besides an Ankalaev. Maybe you could add in Jiri Prochazka. We don't know how he's going to look after his shoulder surgery. I think this is a dangerous fight for Pereira. I'm going to go with Jan Blachowicz. So you guys heard the picks. Kevin Holland, Bobby Green. I'm a little bit worried because a lot of these fights could go either way, and we just came off a 10-3 card. I've had some bad ones, not often. I hope this doesn't turn against me. And then you guys will hear my pick for Crawford versus Spence, and that's another one that could go either way. And then you add the judges to that as well, too. Kevin Holland, Bobby Green, Stephen Thompson. I'm going Jan Blachowicz. And I'm not even going to go with decision. I'm going to say Jan Blachowicz by knockout. Because if Blachowicz wins, I think it's going to be by knockout. Pereira, too soon of a comeback. Got knocked out cold in his last fight. Going up in weight. He's also fighting more powerful strikers. I don't think it's fair to use Blachowicz's performance against Adesanya to then say, oh, he's going to be able to do the same thing against Pereira. Blachowicz isn't the best wrestler. I do think he's going to be able to implement the leg kicks as well, too. Pereira is crafty with the leg kicks, so I just think going up in weight, Blachowicz got legs of steel. He's going to be able to land some big strikes, maybe even get a takedown. I'm going Blachowicz by knockout. Let's travel to the main event, and we do have a call. So before I give my predictions, let's hear our first caller's prediction. If you guys want to call in, 267-545-8096. I think Alex gets lucky. Knockout in the third, says Hito. It happened even without Adesanya. He has been able to endure. In that first fight against Adesanya, he was wobbled in the second round, I believe. Maybe the first round. One of the two rounds. And then he comes back and wins in the fifth round. So he is able to get hurt and kind of still have that second win and come back and get a win. I think Alex gets lucky and knockout in the third, says Hito. Plug says, we've seen Glover hurt Jan with a left hook. Jan has been hurt and wobbled before as well, too. Even against Ankalaev as well. Kevin Holland. Hito has Kevin Holland. He has Ferguson. Nasty pick. He has Ferguson, Kevin Holland, Steven, Alex. You have Pereira as well, too. Wow. And Dustin. It's a tough one. And you have Thompson winning as well, which I agree with. So you disagree with me in the Ferguson pick. We'll see how you feel about Dustin Poirier. Let's play the first voicemail, and then let's get right to our main event pick, and then we'll head over to some boxing. But our first voicemail from Hito609. Here we go.
Hito609. Let's talk about, I guess, Poirier and Gaethje. I think Dustin's going to win. I think a lot of people think Dustin's going to win for the most part. His skills are a lot better.
He says a lot of people feel that Dustin's going to win, but I'm looking at our poll here. And it's a 57% chance for or vote for Justin Gaethje. I think fans are mixed on this fight, but let's see what else he has to say.
I know a lot of people are talking about Justin's last fight against Rafael, and if he brings that type of energy to this fight, he has a shot. But overall, Dustin has better skills. Dustin wins.
And maybe unpopular opinion, I thought Fiziev won that fight 2-1. I thought Gaethje had a great third round. I thought he lost the first two. Maybe the first could have went either way, but he started to find a home for that uppercut, and he started landing it almost at will in that third round, and Fiziev was pretty badly beat up. You add to that the leg kicks that Gaethje has, how he has looked more patient than compared to when he first fought Poirier.
What I do have a question about is, the implications of whoever wins this fight is going to go against the winner of Islam.
Good point.
Oliveira, which we all know Islam is going to win that fight. So let's not even talk about that. So the winner of this fight is going to go against Islam. If it's Dustin or if it's Justin, who do you think has a better shot against Islam? I'm going to say no way he's got a shot against the young goat, but I'd like to hear your opinion. All right, bye. Great call.
Great call. Didn't mean to put Westbrook on there, but great call by my guy, Hito609. A little bit of pessimism, though, that I'm going to talk about as far as this fight and the title implications. It is for the BMF belt, which I'm also not the biggest fan of. Is it fun? Yes. Is it going to be a back and forth war between Gaethje and Poirier? Most likely. Unless one wins by knockout pretty quickly. This fight could go a multitude of ways. You have Dustin winning. I believe Gaethje has improved quite a ton. And I'm back and forth on this. I've been debating this in my mind for a while. Gaethje has become smarter. I actually, if you guys look at older videos, I've criticized Gaethje. I said he's one of the most careless fighters, and I don't mean that in a compliment at all. I mean that as a criticism, actually, that he's just not the brightest in the octagon. But then he fights Fiziev, and he looked great. Although I still edge it to Fiziev, Gaethje looked great, and he looks like he has improved. His leg kicks are vicious. Poirier has a granite chin, fighting out of that southpaw stance, has a mean left straight down the middle. Oh, you misclicked, Justin, that, and it's 50-50 now, so it probably would edge to Poirier. This fight, when they first met each other before, it was a while ago, a significant time ago. It was back in 2018. So can we use that fight to kind of preview what would happen in this fight? I think it was a little bit too long ago to give some merit to that. But they are both different fighters. Now, Poirier is very patient. Fighting at 155, he is a big 155 pounder. Has power in his hands. Gaethje has been hurt, but so has Poirier. Poirier has even been knocked out at 155 as well, too. And he's just has fallen short when it comes to the biggest fight of his career, Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Charles Oliveira 4. He has won the vacant title, but to win, and sorry about that, but to defeat a champion, he's just had a tough time doing so. Now, he is coming off a win against Chandler. Gaethje worries me because of his new patience, his striking ability. I do think Poirier's boxing skill, and he was getting hurt with some leg kicks against Gaethje. If Gaethje's able to implement, if you guys watched the first fight, and they showed a little bit of that on the UFC 291 countdown show. If Gaethje's able to do that early in this fight, it could get real dark for Dustin Poirier. With all that being said, that's my dryer. For some reason, it has that sound. I don't know how to disable it when the clothes is dry. Let's ignore that and pretend it never happened. It does sound like barber clippers, right? With all that being my dryer timer, that's exactly what it was. With all that being said, it went off twice. Why that is, I don't know. With all that being said, I'm gonna have to go with. So here we go. We have Kevin Holland, Bobby Green, Stephen Thompson, Jan Blachowicz is the official picks. I'm going with Dustin Poirier. The man is just a quintessential veteran. Has some great wins on his resume. I think he's going to be able to watch Gaethje's previous performances and Poirier maybe not being as active, maybe not taking as much punishment as Gaethje has prior in his career, even though Poirier has taken his fair share. I think Poirier is going to be able to outland Gaethje. He's going to make Gaethje pay if Gaethje gets a little bit too overzealous. Gaethje's a little bit chinny as well, too. Poirier is going to be looking to make a statement. What I don't like, to allude to what you said, is the winner of this probably fights for the title. I'm not excited for that at all. Neither beat Islam Makhachev. Who has a better chance? This is a weird thing. Let me know if this argument is fair. It might not be the most fairest argument, but it might make sense. It's a little bit, maybe even long-winded. Although I believe Poirier is going to beat Gaethje, the fighter that has a better chance to beat Makhachev, I would say, is Justin Gaethje. So hear me out. We can have a back and forth about this just because of the stylistic matchup. Let me quickly fix this because I hate the way it looks right now. Just because of the stylistic matchup. Poirier with he's a southpaw just like Islam Makhachev as well too, but I don't think he has enough to threaten Makhachev and get the win. Where I think Makhachev will either cruise to a decision, be able to take down Poirier. Poirier is not going to really be able to close the distance much or hurt Makhachev. I think it'll be similar to Khabib and Poirier in their first fight, but maybe Makhachev doesn't lock in the submission and it goes a full 5 rounds. With Gaethje, at least, Gaethje could potentially get knocked out. I know, plugs. Hear me out. Gaethje could potentially get knocked out by Makhachev. But at least in the first 2 rounds, I think Gaethje would be more threatening simply because of the leg kicks. If he's able to slow Makhachev down and hurt Makhachev, Makhachev has been knocked out before. I can see Gaethje potentially doing that. I just don't see anything in the arsenal of Poirier to threaten Makhachev as much as Gaethje will do. But with all that being said, you're playing with fire. At the same time, I could see Gaethje being submitted quicker than a Poirier if he fights Makhachev. I can see Gaethje being knocked out quicker than Poirier. But I also do think he has the offensive skills to threaten Makhachev more. It's kind of like a gamble, right? I can see Gaethje being finished quicker, but I can also see Gaethje finishing Makhachev quicker. I just don't see it happening, right? I don't like either fight. I think Poirier and Gaethje lose to Makhachev, and it's depressing because now in the lightweight division, we're heading into a time, and I think I saw it on Combat Talk. We're entering into a new era, right? Let me see if I can quickly get to it. Hold on, give me 1 second. I don't know if that's playing in your guys' ear, but okay. Our reel's doing some numbers. That's good. That's good to know. But and on YouTube and on TikTok as well too. Let's get it. But I saw this stat, which I thought was a little bit interesting. Justin Gaethje and Poirier are the only remaining members of the legendary 2020 lightweight top 5. Remember, they were the top 5 back in 2020. Khabib's gone. Ferguson is essentially gone, if you know what I mean. He's not the same fighter. Conor McGregor, he can't even find himself in the USADA pool, and who knows if he's going to fight Chandler next. That's another pessimistic view I got. I'm not even excited for Conor McGregor versus Chandler. I think Poirier is just good, but not good enough to beat Makhachev. I think Gaethje's good, but not good enough to beat Makhachev. I think you look at the rankings, and the best opponent for Makhachev, the most threatening one, you could even arguably say that he won that fight, was Volkanovski. He didn't win officially, and maybe Makhachev makes the necessary adjustments to beat Volkanovski if they fight again. But is it sad to say, or maybe you guys could give me a name, but I don't see anyone in the top 10 that really has a realistic chance against Makhachev. I'm not saying he's the best fighter of all time. I'm not saying he's the best lightweight of all time. I just think the options that we have, I thought it would be Beneil Dariush. And you saw what Oliveira did. Oliveira does fight Makhachev coming up next. Oh, man, you guys are going to hate me because I'm going to sound like the biggest casual, and we'll get there eventually. I might have Oliveira beating Makhachev.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man.
Is it? I'm all over the place. I'll admit. And I blame my takes on the weirdness of where the lightweight division is. I hope it gets more exciting because you look at it, like at one point the lightweight division was the most, if you go back to when Oliveira was the champion, before Makhachev got the title shot, the lightweight division was one of the most exciting ones. You had Chandler, who was putting on good performances, whether he won or lost. You have Oliveira, who kind of had a rag to riches comeback and was able to eventually grab the title. And before Makhachev, imagine Oliveira versus Poirier, Gaethje, which he has seen one of them, Dariush climbing up the ranks, Gamrot Saryukian. Now that Makhachev has a title Miller fell off. You're going to see that I'm proven to be right eventually, Hito. I promise you. Watch. Because I'm usually right, man. Let's just be honest. Let's just call it what it is. It sounds crazy until you're right, right? Just like I was right about Derek Lewis, Leon Edwards. I mean, the list goes on. But anyways, the lightweight division to me was one of the most exciting divisions. But right now is a little bit... We almost need Oliveira to beat Makhachev. Because if he doesn't, it's like bring Volkanovski back almost maybe, right? Tell him, no shot against the young GOAT. Yeah, here comes a dumb take. I'm not merchant. What part am I trolling about? I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. What part do you dislike the most? Because I hear myself talk, and I'll be honest. I hear myself talk, and I don't like it. But I think I'm being logical. 267-545-8096 if you guys want to respond to any of those takes. I'll play those. I'll play your voicemail live on stream. If you called in, let me know, and I'll make sure I play it too. The daughter scratched me all up here. We were playing, and she went with her nail. Random. 267-545-8096. We'd love to hear some thoughts. We're about to talk some Spence and Crawford soon. You can call in about that fight as well, too. What part do you guys dislike the most? Because I know that sounded like a whole bunch of word salad. I understand. But we look at the lightweight division, and it's not the same. Right now, to me, my most favorite divisions is probably the bantamweight division. I really like the light heavyweight division with Jamal Hill being champion and the chance of that title just passing through a bunch of hands and who's really the best, Jamal Hill or Jiri Prochazka before the injury. Magomed Ankalaev had a close fight with Jan Blachowicz. Johnny Walker had a good, impressive win as of recent. Paul Craig hasn't had a good win. To me, the light heavyweight division is one of the most exciting ones. The bantamweight as well, too. It was at one point the lightweight division, but it's just not that anymore. Now the welterweight division, even that might have skipped ahead of the lightweight division. The middleweight division, now that Drew Drickus beat Robert Whittaker, no one saw that happening besides maybe Plugs. Oh man, can I find it quickly enough? I think I could. To what you had to say, did you watch the last fight? Give me 1 second. Let me see right here. Look at the poll after 2.3K votes. After 2.3K votes, it's a 50-50. I know that's weird. I don't know how they got to that conclusion, but for sure, Charles, last time was a very close fight. So they're trolling, right? I wonder if anybody who voted for Oliveira actually watched UFC 280. So trust me, I'm not saying this as if I'm oblivious to what happened in the last fight. I know that sounds crazy. Let me also make this argument. Wait 1 second. Let's read a couple more comments. Oh man, freaking. Let's talk about it. I know it's a little bit early before the Oliveira and Makhachev fight, but freaking, I'm gonna die on that hill. I'll talk about that in a second. Definitely want Charles to win, but if he does, all it will do is force the third fight. Snipey, a member of the channel. It's crazy anyone is picking against Islam. Oliveira seems to be either really on or really off. But even if he shows up really on, Islam is just too much. By the way, you guys could become a member today. Consider doing so. Helps the channel out immensely. Helps me keep having Mondays off and doing this. So anyways, quick little infomercial. But to what he said, Oliveira seems to be either really on or really off. Right here, what's highlighted there. 267-545-8096. We do have a new voicemail. I'll be playing that in a second. Where is that? Oliveira is on or off? I know he got demolished. And do you guys know Renato Moicano, right? The Brazilian. He was even pleading in one of his videos saying, Oliveira, please don't take this fight in Abu Dhabi. You saw what happened last time on the scale where you guys couldn't figure it out. You were a pound over, but who knows if you were really a pound over. He thought there was something funky happening. He said, please don't take this fight in Abu Dhabi. What Moicano believed happened is Oliveira said, listen, I don't want this fight in Abu Dhabi, but they said, we're going to pay you a ton of money, and he took it. Either Oliveira is on or off. All I'm saying is Oliveira's jab and his range, if he's on, and the power that he has behind his hands is spectacular. I just need him to connect against Makhachev. And am I kind of, wishing on a miracle? Almost in a sense, because Makhachev is so compact. He's wise. His fundamentals are great. And on paper, he's the most dangerous fighter. I agree. And it's going to be tough for anybody to beat him that's in the lightweight division besides maybe a Volkanovski. Even then, having the craziest takes, even then, Makhachev might do the adjustments to beat Volkanovski if they were to fight again. With all that being said, if Oliveira shows up, I know this is an ugly take. I think I might go with Oliveira, especially, let's see if they have some, real quick, before we play our next. UFC 294 early odds. This is 4 days ago. Betting odds, Islam Makhachev remains a large favorite. This is early for UFC 294. Islam Makhachev is a minus 350. Charles Oliveira plus 285. You can't tell me that that's not a bad bet to take. It is in Abu Dhabi. That scares me, Plugs. No, nobody gives you these facts besides myself, Plugs. I'm here to break the news to you. Welterweight will be goated when Kobe wins. You think he's going to beat Leon? We can talk about that as well, too. And I did watch the first fight, but at a plus 285, I might throw some money on Oliveira. He has shocked the world before. Nobody thought he would become a champion. Nobody thought he would make the comeback that he did. Nobody thought he would beat Poirier. Nobody thought he would beat Chandler, especially after that first round. And the way that fight... Yeah, it's not bad, it's dumb, says Hito. Let's play the next voicemail because I hear myself and I swear it makes sense, but I hear myself and I could understand the disgust. Let's hear the next voicemail real quick.
Here's what a dryer from the 2000s sound like. What the fuck was that?
You could barely hear it.
Here's what a dryer from the 2000s sound like. What the fuck was that?
My dryer, of course, had to go off. I got to remember to not put close to dry while I'm live on stream. But with all that being said, I'm going Oliveira. Freak it, man. Charles will make adjustments. Let's go. Let's get some common sense in the chat. We're about to go over to Spence versus Crawford in a matter of seconds. He's going to make the adjustments, Jesus. No reason to sugarcoat it. Let's be honest. Oliveira has been doubted before. Oliveira has had bad performances, has come back, and has won. You saw what he did to Beneil Dariush, where that on paper should have been a close fight. Round number 1, Oliveira walks through Dariush, who I thought was the biggest threat for Makhachev, and Oliveira comes back and wins. And he has beaten Gaethje by submission in round 1. He beats Poirier. He beats Chandler. He beat Ferguson. He just had a hiccup of a fight. He just, and if you want these takes to get even nastier, freak it. Aljo versus Petr Yan. Maybe that first fight was a hiccup. Petr Yan was walking through Aljo. He lands the illegal knee, but maybe Aljo really was having an off day. I believe he was saying his stomach, what he ate was making him feel like nauseous. He just didn't feel himself. He made the adjustments. He came back and he beat Petr Yan. When most people thought, after that first performance, Petr Yan lands an illegal knee. He was seconds away from winning a fight. He's gonna walk through Aljamain Sterling. No. Sterling made the necessary adjustments. He got the job done. All I'm saying, freak it. Some videos incoming, I think, that I need to make of Oliveira. I'm gonna down the hill, and listen, we've seen odder things. We've seen Duplessis beat Whitaker, which was just odd, right? Maybe that was more of a chance of that not happening than Oliveira beating Makhachev in a rematch. I think Oliveira makes some adjustments, and even if he doesn't win, it's gonna be a totally different outcome, and Makhachev won't walk through him, because at the end of the day, it was round 2 submission for Makhachev. It's not gonna happen. Please, Sugar, beat Aljo. I agree. For the sake of the division, right? Because that's another. We're having a good discussion here. Where's the UFC rankings? Oh, okay. I forgot that. Yes. For the sake of the division, if Aljo beats Sean O'Malley and then Merab and Aljo are butt buddies and they won't fight each other, and then Cejudo was a close fight, but do fans really want to see that fight again? Maybe not. I would like to see the Corey Sandhagen rematch. If Corey Sandhagen, you saw that his fight got canceled against Nurmagomedov, he's going to be fighting Rafam. Maybe I would like to see that rematch, but the weight division is getting a little stagnant. How much more exciting would it be if Sean O'Malley beats Aljamain Sterling? And to beat a dead horse a little bit, how much more exciting will it be if Oliveira beats Makhachev? And maybe the trick is attack the legs, man. I mean, you saw the little bit of success that Jan Blachowicz was having against Magomed Ankalaev. Slow him down with the leg kicks. Gaethje was trying to land the leg kicks against Khabib. If you're just able to stuff the takedowns long enough and attack the legs and make it essentially a striking fight, you saw the success that Volkanovski had against Makhachev. If Oliveira is able to figure that puzzle out of not getting taken down and it's just a striking match, granted, Makhachev could win just a striking match as well too. I think his striking is underrated. He might even be able to beat him on the feet as well too, but at least I would like to see it where it becomes essentially a striking match. 999 in the building. What's up? 267-545-8096. You can share your predictions for Poirier versus Gaethje and Spence versus Crawford. Feel free to call in and share your predictions. Thank you for the call-ins earlier, Hito. Yo, please do an Oliveira video like you did for Leon Edwards, prediction video, just so I can laugh at you on repeat. Oh, the comment? Okay. Freak it. As that fight approaches, that's what needs to be made. Thank you for the 20 again, Hito. It needs to be done. And I was right. People thought I was right about the decision for Leon Edwards in their third fight, where many felt that Usman was going to walk through Leon because all Leon got was that head kick. Besides that, he was being dominated. That's all I'm saying. So again, watch me be right. I'm going to have to do that, Hito. You're giving me the video ideas, which I appreciate. The most recent one is doing great on TikTok and Instagram. So thank you. And decent on YouTube as well, too. So I appreciate that. Sugar beats Aljo. I might pick Sugar Sean O'Malley to beat Aljo. But we'll talk about that. We're approaching that card as well, too. It's not that far. It's next month. Less than a month away. Less than a month away is Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. Ilya will get destroyed by Volk, mark my words. I love Topuaria's style. I love the story that he has, how he was climbing up the ranks, but I agree. I think Volkanovski, and I've said this before, is just too much. Now, Topuria probably shouldn't fight Holloway either, but just get another fight to kind of just gain more experience in there, but don't fight Volkanovski now. To me, Volkanovski might retire being the GOAT. As crazy as that may sound. And I think he's closer than people expect. The Dagestanis make the division look stagnant. That's why you're coping for Oliveira to win. You listen. Merchant, you might be right. You might be right. This is a Patek of an Autumn. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Audemars. I'm just lying. It's a Casio watch though. $12 watch, baby. This has been through hell and back, man. These things last. Casio, $12 watch. I wear it to work all the time, and I always have a watch on me. But eventually, when we get that, when we start touching some Moicano money, I want to invest in like a Rolex or something, or Oris watch. If you ever seen some of those. But anyways, I left you a call 999. I'm gonna play that in a second. Actually, let's play that before we get to Spence versus Crawford. Thank you for leaving a call. Let's get right to it. 999 with the voicemail call. Here we go.
Hey, Miller. Hey, this is 999 here.
Hold on a second. But before we keep going, and not even to joke too much.
Hey, Miller. Hey, this is 999 here.
Can we admit, from what I hear, my boy's going through puberty? If you remember 999's previous calls, the boy's becoming a man. You can tell. The go to 999 that goes to all the events and he sends pictures in the Discord. My guy, he might become a fighter one day. We'll see. But let's go 999. Let's get right to it.
Hey, Miller. Hey, this is 999 here. In my opinion, since Jamal Hill left the vacating of the light heavyweight title, why isn't the Blachowicz versus Pereira an interim title? Because whenever I think he tore his Achilles and he's out for at least 6 months, so that gives a new time. So
that's a good question, right? Because Jamal Hill vacated the title the same way that Jiri Prochazka did, and when Jiri vacated, it was Jamal Hill versus Glover. Why isn't this? If I'm not mistaken, it's not a title fight for the vacant title. It's just a light heavyweight co-main. It'll be 3 rounds, I believe. I think you're right. I think you're right. Let me double check to make sure we are correct. UFC 291. DraftKings. Oh, this weekend will be sponsored as well too, so we should get yeah. I don't believe it's for the vacant title. Why that is, I'm not sure. That's a great question. Jamal Hill vacated because of the Achilles injuries, but nonetheless, they're going to be fighting. So I guess it's a 3-round fight as well too, which maybe favors Pereira.
Prochazka can fight them for like the real title, and then Jamal Hill comes into the picture, and then they fight, and then Blachowicz retires if he loses his fight against Pereira, and Alex Pereira is going to be a top 5 light heavyweight contender for the rest of his career. He isn't going to get another title shot after this interim fight, which I think should supposed to happen, but it's not going to happen. But it should.
Although it's not, I guess maybe because he recently vacated, that's why they're not making it a title fight. There's maybe still trying to figure it out. So maybe Blachowicz and Pereira, the winner, immediately fights for the title shot next, and they fight Prochazka. My man said it's called a glow up. My guy Merchant says puberty don't sound like a girl anymore. Let's go. The jokes are flooding in the chat. Let's get it. Number 1 commentary channel on YouTube. Left your call. Yep. Cassio's goated. Facts. Man, we could talk watches all day. That's one of my things that I want to get into. Like, when I touch some money, for me, it's not cars. Like, I'll be cool with any decent car, but if I could, carelessly spend on something that's materialistic, is watches. Sneakers don't really attract me like that either. Still don't got my Yeezys. Hito, it be your own. That puberty is hitting like a mother effer. My man said it's called the glow up. That's one of the funniest things I said. But yes, it is weird that they're not fighting for the vacant title. I agree. Now, if you guys want to call in and share your predictions on Spence versus Crawford, because it is fight week and that fight is going to be sponsored, so let's go. I'm excited about that, man. Don't let me touch some money, but nonetheless, guys, let's start early, get a bunch of people in here, and let's figure out. Let's just have a crazy big stream as well too, with Spence versus Crawford. But speaking of Spence versus Crawford, the next topic at hand, let's get right to it. That'll be this weekend, July 29th, of course, the same day as UFC 291, which that just absolutely sucks that it has to be of course be the same day, right? It has to be the same day as one of the biggest UFC cards of the year as well too, as far as on paper. Let me pause this, but let's play a couple videos that I want to show you guys. Here we go. Spence preparing for UFC for his biggest fight of his life. He has an incredible resume. If you look at the resume of Errol Spence Jr. and just his life behind the scenes, one of the most interesting characters, right? I've always compared it to Hagler as far as his fighting style, the southpaw stance, fighting from the inside, kind of imposing his will, granite chin, just a relaxed, laid-back person outside of the camera. So it just reminds me a lot of Hagler. That's the comparison I like to make. And it almost feels like a Hagler versus Hearns type of feeling, even though, Hearns and Crawford are stylistically different. But as far as like just the firepower between both fighters, but nonetheless.
Definitely, a long road to get to the.
Definitely, Spence doesn't sound like the most excited fighter. We can talk a little bit. I wanted to cover that live, man. I wish it was today, but it's tomorrow during and that card is horrible. Am I gonna have to pay for both pay-per-views, man? UFC 291 and freaking plugs. If you could be the plug and help a brother out, if you know what I mean, let me know.
At this point, stuff.
But I'm gonna have to be watching that at work, like on my phone. It's almost 1 in the midnight, man. I got work tomorrow. Goodbye, guys. I understand, Merchant. No worries. Thank you for rocking out with your boy, man. Be here this weekend. Well, that's when it starts. They'll probably be fighting like around 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., maybe even a little later. The Inoue. Wait, if it starts at 4:30 a.m., I'll watch it. I'll wake up. I'll try to find out.
Definitely, you know, a long road to get to this point. Stuff takes time. My dad, he always say, man, he's so stubborn. Yeah, I'm stubborn, but...
And I like this quote, man, and we're about to talk some Crawford versus Spence.
My stubbornness, that's what got me here.
My stubbornness, that's what got me here. Remember after the car crash? Oh, man. And it's hard to kind of put yourself back in that time. When that happened, the media was running with even fans, and justifiably so. If it is at 4:30 a.m. and they fight like around 6 a.m., I will go live for that. The problem is I think it's going to be around 8 a.m. I have to be at work already, which sucks. I wish I could call out, but I can't if I already have Mondays off. Anyways, when Spence was in that car crash, for him to come back and be the same fighter and not be a shell of himself, the Black Two Sugars, he'll probably be live for that. He's a freaking legend. Spence, to come back and be stubborn enough to his first fight back is Danny Garcia. That's a tough fight. And that be his first fight. He is stubborn, but maybe for good reason. And maybe that's what got him this far.
You know, at this point, I was like, I don't.
And if you ever look at the pad work of Derrick James and Spence, it's very just straight fundamentals. Jab, jab straight, jab to the body, left straight to the body, a few hooks, not at the fastest pace. He's not doing the Ryan Garcia spamming 5 left hooks and what he used to do. Let's see how Garcia improves.
I want to fight Terrence Crawford. I don't want.
But very relaxed, very in the pocket.
Fight anybody else.
It's almost therapeutic. It's almost like listening to lo-fi, watching Spence do pad work.
Competitive. He's super competitive, and I don't want to lose to him. He don't want to lose to me.
They don't want to lose to each other, man. This is a career-defining fight for both fighters, man. I can't wait.
I think this fight really decides not only who's the best pound for pound, but who's the best fighter in the world.
You could tell psychologically, man. Maybe I'm looking into this a little bit too much. He kind of smirks when this kind of determines who's the best pound for pound. With the smirk behind his face as if to say, like, it's me, right? As if he knows he's going to win. That's the kind of look he has in his eyes if I had to read into it a lot, right?
In the world, period. Don't wait. Order my fight.
And then you have, on the other side of the hill,
he can switch stances, moves like a dancer, and those shots,
the angles that Crawford creates.
Thump. After turning pro,
he has been hurt before, and that's what we're about to talk about a little bit in a second.
In 2008, Crawford fought 39 times, recording 30 knockouts, and becoming the undisputed
one of the funniest jumps and, fist pumps in the air that I've ever seen in my life.
Super lightweight champion, boxing's first 4-belt holder.
Boxing's first belt, 4-belt holder.
More than 12 years.
Spence been on my mind ever since I moved up into the division.
That's what both of them have been saying. Spence wanted to stay down at 147 just to fight Crawford. Where there's rumors that he might go up and try to fight Canelo, as crazy as that may sound. He has to get past Crawford first, and there is a rematch clause, so probably not going to happen.
Fans and the media wasn't calling for Sean Porter to fight Terrence Crawford when Sean Porter had a title. The fans wasn't calling for Ugas.
Crawford's jump is like, hooray!
To fight Terrence Crawford when he had a title. They was saying, oh, fight Errol.
So this fight maybe should have happened 5 years ago. Maybe should have happened before the car crash, right? Is it long overdue? Yes.
Keep going. I'm like Forrest Gump. Said I made it this far, I might as well keep going.
I trained my ass off to be where I'm at.
Then you hear Shakur Stevenson in the post-fight interview where Kambosos got a gifted decision win against Hughes. And what was Shakur Stevenson? He said, I don't know anyone that works harder than Terrence Crawford. That's a pretty big compliment from someone like Shakur, right?
I deserve those fights.
Fighter of the year, huh?
It's fair to say both fighters could also hurt each other.
Ring magazine champ 2 times.
It was frustrating, but I had to take what I had to get.
Boxing. A sport where clamor doesn't always equal fights made. But while
they both have wins against Kell Brook that they're showing the replays for Crawford, but who got to him first?
Crawford eyed the big fish.
It's both have had similar opponents and different varying outcomes.
He took the fights available to him, becoming a 3-division world champion. And
he beat Sean Porter, but Spence's argument is, well, even Porter's dad said that he wasn't the same mentally going into the fight against Crawford as he was against Spence.
Bludgeoning many a foe.
After we moved to 147 pounds, to be honest with you, man, we've been licking our chops from day one.
You see Bomac saying we've been licking our chops since day one.
No mistake. This
it gets interesting, guys. It gets interesting. Let's head over to let's close out with this topic. Let's head over to BoxRec and talk a little fighting. Let's head over to BoxRec, look at their resumes, and end up with a final prediction for this fight, because it is maybe one of the fights of the decade, and hopefully it lives up to expectation. Interestingly enough, by CBS Boxing, which they always put in odds early, Terrence Crawford is a -155. Errol Spence is a +130. If I get that same kind of odds, I might throw a little bag at this as well, too. And to be honest, Hito, I thought, if you noticed that I paused, I was going to make a little joke about that as well, too. What I was going to say is, I'm sure you are licking your chops, but I didn't want to take it that far. Main event is like at 8 a.m. I wish I could cover that, man. We'll see. If I don't have that many stuff, I don't know. I might have to contact the job, but I doubt I'm going to be able to. Let me not get too ahead of myself. Anyways, that start is at 8 p.m. How do we go about this since it's not a live stream as far as for the event? Should we cover UFC 291 until Terrence Crawford fights Spence, or do you guys want the commentating for Cruz and Cabrera? Like, how do we go about this? I feel like I need to cover both, but we'll definitely be covering Crawford versus Spence. Anyways, let's head over to the BoxRec of or the record, right? The boxing record. 39-0, 30 KOs. Southpaw fighter, even though he fights both stances in the welterweight division. Now, there's a couple names that are on both of their resumes. Kell Brook, Sean Porter, are the ones that are most poignant, that stand out the most. He has a win against David Avanyesin. You remember that was on, I forget the name of the promotion, but he got a good paycheck. Amir Khan finished him in the 6th, even though Khan doesn't have the biggest chin. Benavidez, David's brother, Jose Benavidez. Jeff Horn, he got hurt in that fight. Where's the Yuriokis Gamboa? That was back in 2015, and he got wobbled a bit, speaking of Terrence Crawford, although he wins by TKO in the 9th round. Crawford has been touched and hurt before. He's one of those type of fighters, and you've heard this before, and I'm trying to be careful and not saying the same thing everybody says, because you hear the same thing over and over again. The same kind of analysis. I'm hoping I could give you something different, right? If you guys want to call in and share a prediction for this fight, 267-545-8096. We'd love to hear some predictions for this fight as we close the show with this fight. Inoue in 10. You think he finishes Fulton? That's gonna be Fulton is like a +300 underdog, and that might not be the worst bet to take, even though I have Inoue winning as well too. Probably start with Cabrera so you can get the boxing viewers, and it's going to be crazy Saturday. I hope so. I feel like with boxing, man, the Anthony Joshua last fight was huge as far as numbers. When it's like UK fights are big, let's see how this one does. But yeah, boxing always does crazy numbers. Let's capitalize, man. Let's keep doing what we're doing, man. I'm excited. #1 commentary channel on YouTube. Let's go. What was I? Probably start with the Cabrera fight. I think that's a good place to start. Right at the co-main, Cabrera versus Isaac Cruz. Start commentating that, talking boxing. We'll talk UFC back and forth. Maybe Plug's gonna give us a plug because to buy both pay-per-views is gonna be insane. This is the way that I look at this fight. Firstly, let's answer the question. Let's take this a little bit systematically before we finish the stream. We'll be on for like another 10 minutes and then get out of here. We've been live for a while. An hour 25. I try to keep it to an hour, so crazy. Can we, especially with the Kell Brook and Sean Porter performances that Crawford had against those two fighters, you see that Crawford beat Porter 10th round TKO and Kell Brook 4th round TKO. Spence being 28-0, 22 knockouts. I think he has the more impressive resume. He got to Kell Brook earlier. This was in 2017. First Gennady got to him first, but then it was Spence, and then it was Crawford 3 years later down the line. But Spence got to him first. I think Spence has a better resume, not because he's necessarily the better fighter than Crawford, even though that might be the case. We're maybe going to find out this weekend. I think it's because he's the bigger name. He's kind of the A side. He can sell out the Cowboy Stadium. He's a bigger draw. Crawford, under top rank, wasn't able to get necessarily the big fights that Spence was able to get. He beats Kell Brook in 2017. Lamont Peterson, so big names. Mikey Garcia is a huge name compared to almost anybody else on Crawford's resume. Sean Porter, he gets to him first, and he beats him by a split decision. That fight was a lot closer. Spence versus Porter, some may have felt that Porter got the job done, but then Porter loses TKO to Crawford. He gets in the car crash, he comes back, and the first fight back is Danny Garcia. Now, a very impressive win. I thought Ugas being very durable. You saw what Ugas did to Pacquiao. That was kind of a surprising win that many felt that Pacquiao was going to get the job done. Granted, that was in the latter half of Pacquiao's careers. Pacquiao was not the same Pacquiao, right? Pacquiao in his prime probably beats Ugas. I think that's fair to say. Nonetheless, good win for Ugas. He fights Errol Spence Jr. And before that loss, he never lost by KO. So for Spence to knock out, being the first to knock out Ugas, I thought was pretty impressive. Now he's fighting Terrence Crawford for the undisputed title. Left another message. Thank you. Brunson versus Roman Dolidze is official. Breaking news by my man Plug. You know it's going to be crazy Saturday. Yes, I truly can't wait. And I'm going to be playing the voicemail in a second. Okay, all that to say, my final prediction for this fight, Spence versus Crawford. Can we go off the resume and the fighters that both of them had, or the opponents both of them had, and kind of go off that judgment? Not necessarily. Now, the bigger man will be Spence at 5'9.5", 72-inch reach. Crawford is 5'8", 74-inch reach. So the longer reach, the smaller guy. But I think Spence is going to be heavier, maybe bulkier in the ring. Spence is the one that's, trying to go up in weight. Maybe Crawford sticks around. Spence has been, kind of struggling, maybe not so much. His diet is better, but to make weight has become tougher and tougher. He's the bigger guy. It gets interesting because this fight could end a multitude of ways. Crawford could arguably, if Sean Porter almost outboxed Errol Spence, maybe that's what Crawford does. But what people forget is how durable Sean Porter is. Now, Spence walking forward, round after round, in a full 12 rounds, for all the marbles. Crawford being hurt before. Yes, Crawford is crafty. He could maybe create an angle to hurt Spence. Both fighters could hurt each other. Spence better not let his mouthpiece come out like it has happened in like the last 5 fights, I would argue. But nonetheless, with that being said, you saw the clip in the Top Rank promotion and how he's working that out. I'm about to play the next voicemail soon, but it could go either way. This is a tough fight to call. It could go either way. I'm gonna go with Spence. I know both fighters are gonna be trying to outbox each other, outsmart each other, but when it's all said and done, Crawford is so he's so versatile, but I think Spence is gonna, at the end of the day, be able to impose his will and get and hurt Crawford enough to keep him honest and maybe edge a decision. It scares me when it comes to judges, where if it's close, your guess is as good as mine. If it's close, your guess is as good as mine. The judges could go either way, but from what I pick, I think Spence is going to be able to get the job done and edge a decision or hurt Crawford. If he wins by knockout, man, that's going to be a conversation in the media for like a week. And the beautiful thing is that happens Saturday. Whatever the outcome, we get to cover it on Monday. So that should be fun. Hopefully we get more people in the podcast as well too. But let's keep growing the channel. Should be a lot of fun. Our next, we have one more voicemail. Let's play it. And then, why do you have Terrence? I would love to hear why, Hito. Because it could go either way, right? I think that's fair to say. Let's see what Triple Nine had to say.
Hey, Triple Nine here. Hey, just because Duplessis has that Riz, and Dustin Poirier gets the job done again in the 4th round, but Gaethje will hurt Poirier 2 times in this fight in the first time.
That's a bold prediction, man. And Triple Nine has been on.
My words. There will be a lot of blood.
Mark my words.
Better than the first encounter that they had. So I got Dustin Poirier in a round 3. I don't think this fight would never go the distance. It's like watching a fight from the movie Bloodsport. This fight will never go the distance. Mark my words.
I would like to see the betting odds. Let me see if I could find it real quick. My bookie, promo code DC Miller. Let me know if you guys bet on this fight. Maybe wait till that day where that stream will be sponsored. But let me see. Do they have the early odds? Because I might be putting some bets in live. Can I see? Let's see. MMA, UFC Poirier versus Gaethje 2. They do have. Give me 1 second. I am at the top here. Let's see. These are the odds for UFC 291. Let's backtrack a little bit. Oh, they don't have the props yet on. They take a while with these sometimes, like who wins by knockout. Poirier's a 142, so I'm not gonna do any money line bets. Let's see if Thursday, if we do a member live stream, I'll put in my bets for the member live stream. You could become a member today. Link is in the chat. So that'll be Thursday member live stream. I'll be putting some bets live. Let's see just a money line odds they have for the main event. Minus 142 for Poirier, minus 178 for Stephen Thompson. So they're picking me. They're going Jan Blachowicz a slight, almost not even a favorite. So pretty even almost. Bobby Green is a minus 357. Kevin Holland. That might not be the work. A plus 263 for Ferguson might not be. Wow. I have Bobby Green winning, but for the odds that I'm getting, maybe if Ferguson could just be the old Ferguson just for 3 rounds, I might want to just put a bet in there for Ferguson for those odds, right? Holland is a minus 156. Anyways, I guess we're going to have to wait till Thursday to see the props. I'll be making some bets live on the member stream Thursday. So let's get out of here. My man Blue in the building. I used to carry in Fortnite. What's good, bro? Hope all is well, man. I'm about to get out of here. We'll talk some more Crawford and Spence on Thursday. I'll be thinking about that fight more and talking about it more on the member stream Thursday. Thank you for the ongoing support. Sorry, Blue, that you're getting in while I'm just about to get out of here, man. I haven't talked to you in forever. Hope everything is well, man. I'm assuming you're on summer break. Hito, thank you for the $20 donation. Thank you for all the calls, Hito and 999. We'll be putting some live bets on Thursday. That's what we'll start doing on member stream all the time. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm going to get out of here because I went longer than expected. It's supposed to be an hour stream, and I've been live for an hour 34. I sent you an Insta. Like a DM. Do you want me to play it on stream, or you're just saying that to check it out? Let me know. Like, let me see. Use the latest app. Oh, it won't let me see it. It's like a mini solar. But if oh, okay. Let's talk some watches. I'll shoot you a message as soon as I get out of here. You were terrible. I was horrible, bro. I was a horrible Fortnite player. Apex is lit as well too, by the way, too. But I'm horrible as well. Man, I want to find a day where I could just game off a little bit. Yeah. I'll check. I saw it was something about watches, but it wouldn't let me see. It wouldn't let me see on desktop. Peace 999. Peace. Blue. I was horrible at the gym. Let's go. Bulk up, man. Much love to all you guys. Thank you for the ongoing support. #1 commentary channel on YouTube. We'll be back Thursday for a member live stream. Be on the lookout for videos. On the videos, leave a comment. Even if you don't necessarily care about the topic, leave any comment. Just saying what's up, saying whatever. Just because it helps out with the analytics and algorithm. I know that's annoying to hear all the time, but it helps the stream and we're growing. So let's see where we're at a year from now if we keep the trajectory of going this way. So let's go. Saturday will be a live stream. Thursday will be a member live stream. I'll catch you guys soon. Much love. God bless. Peace.